My name's Robin Simpson. I'm the coordinator of public programs in education here at the Leonard and Bina Ellen Art Gallery. And just a warm welcome to everyone for joining us for the closing event of Among All These Tundras. The curators of this exhibition really put me to work. And we had 7 public events in 8 weeks around this show, and I think if you've already spent time with the exhibition, you can probably guess that there's a lot more that could have been generated from engaging with these works and their curatorial framework. So as a closing thank you from me, thank you to the curators for such a unique and generative challenge to be working with all these works simultaneously and what it's brought to the gallery, to the daily tours here, near daily tours here at the exhibition. It's been really rich, so thank you. I'll begin with a territorial acknowledgement. Concordia University is located on unceded indigenous lands, and the Kanien'kehá:ka Nation are recognized as the custodians of the lands and waters on which we gather. Tiohtià:ke, Montreal, is historically known as a gathering place for many First Nations. Today, it is home to a diverse population of Indigenous and other peoples. We respect and continue connections with the past, present, and future in our ongoing relationships with Indigenous and other peoples within the Tiohtià:ke Montreal community. This event this evening is in 3 parts. The first part is going to happen in the neighboring gallery. So after I go through the bios, I'm just going to invite you to move over so we can watch Marja Helander's latest film, Video. You're welcome to bring a chair with you if you need a chair. The video runs for 10 minutes. And just be mindful of the other artworks in the room. And then we'll come back in here for Taqralik's performance, and that will be followed by a conversation with Heather. So I'm just going to go through the bios here to situate you all a bit more. Marja Helander is a video artist and photographer based in Utsjoki and Helsinki, Finland. Her multimedia practice draws from her Sami and Finnish ancestry. Hellander explores themes related to femininity, identity, and the tension between traditional Sami ways of life and modern Finnish society. Recent work concentrates on post-colonial issues among Sami, including industry and resource extraction in the north, and Sami issues of modernity through a tragic-comic lens. Her video work, Dolastala, which is featured in this exhibition, won the Kent Monkman Award at Imaginative Film and Media Arts Festival in Toronto 2016, and her recent short, which we'll see tonight, Birds in the Earth, won the Risto Jarva Prize and the main prize in the national competition at the Tampere Film Festival in 2018 in Finland, and recently screened at this year's iteration of Imaginative. Helander's works are also included in collections in several Scandinavian museums and in the National Gallery of Canada. Taqralik Patridge is an Inuk artist, writer, curator, throat singer, and spoken word poet. She's originally from Kuniak, Nunavik, although she now splits her time between Canada and northern Sapmi. Partridge's writing focuses on both life in the north and on the experiences of Inuit living in the south, featuring a mix of influences from hip-hop to Inuit storytelling. Partridge co-founded the Tusarnik Festival held in Montreal. Her performance work has been featured on CBC Radio 1 and the BBC program, and she has toured with the Montreal Symphony Orchestra. Partridge also worked as Director of Communications for the Atavak Cultural Institute down the street here on Green Avenue in Westmount. And in 2010, her short story, Iglulik, won the first prize in the Quebec Writing Competition. And the same year she was a featured artist on stage at the 2010 Olympics in Vancouver. In 2008, Partridge was named as a finalist for the CBC Short Story Prize. Heather Gloliorte is an associate professor in the Department of Art History at Concordia University here in Montreal, where she holds a research chair in Indigenous art history and community engagement. Heather has published extensively on Inuit and other Indigenous arts. She also maintains an active curatorial practice, as evidenced by this exhibition, co-curated with Carissa von Haringa and Amy Prouty. And in 2016, she curated the permanent collection of Inuit art at the National Musée National des Beaux-Arts du Québec, Lipunga, and did I pronounce that right? Yes. And launched the nationally touring exhibition Sakiyayak, Art and Craft from the Nunatsiavut. Forthcoming projects include Alutuk Lipeli, Walking Both Sides of an Invisible Border, 2018, and the inaugural exhibitions at the Winnipeg Art Gallery's Inuit Art Center, opening 2020. So did you have any words before the screening, Heather? Okay. So I just invite you to move over here. It's just to the left. And again, please be mindful of the works on the wall and the sculpture sitting on the floor.
Unaka, good evening, everyone. I'm so glad that you would come and join us for our closing event. I'm Heather Gliliordi. I'm one of the curators. And I just want to say, as we are closing this, that was also my first time seeing the film in its entirety. The idea for this exhibition came out of last year I attended the Arctic Art Summit. Was that last year or was that the year before? It was the first one. And days and nights kind of roll together for me. And it was there that I first met Alison Warden, who did the performance here at the beginning of the exhibition. I hope some of you were here for that. And I also met Marja Helander for the first time, and she on a panel that she was on, she showed some clips of that piece as it was in production, and I was kind of like, oh my God, I need to do a show just so I can see the rest of this work because it's so incredible. If it's not clear, that are two Sami prima ballerinas who live in, I believe, Norway, but there were so many themes that the piece just spoke to that are also come up through this exhibition, the kind of poetry and the movement through the land, but also sovereignty and an understanding of land that goes much deeper than the state. That was a really beautiful piece. Are we all excited by that? Yeah. So Taqralik is going to perform some of her spoken word poetry. What we said at the beginning of this panel, or the beginning of this whole process, was that she's actually much, much better known for her writing, perhaps, than her work in contemporary visual art. So we're really excited that her pieces, hers are the works that are around this wall in the gallery here. And so, but I have always known her to be a really incredible seamstress, and I know this because I follow her on Facebook and see everything that she's working on, all the amazing things she's made. And so it's a really exciting thing to have her be here to express both the sort of poetic part of her work as well as the visual arts part of her practice, because she is an artist who can work and do anything, in my opinion. So as this is the closing event, I do just want to take a moment and acknowledge and thank my two really incredible co-curators on this project, Amy Prouty and Carissa von Haringa. It has been a really, really special thing that we've got to work on together, and I'm really grateful to Michelle for giving us this opportunity here at the gallery. She approached us last year and said, do you have an idea? And I was like, I'm just back from Norway. Carissa is researching and writing circumpolar work, especially Indigenous artists that deal with the archive in their work, and Amy is working on urban Inuit in Inuit Unangat and southern Canada. And so the three of us together, I think, have had a really great synergy in the creation of this work. So again, I want to thank the Ellen, and especially Urg for the installation, Robin for the incredible programming that you've done. We really did. I mean, we pushed on you, but you came with just as many amazing ideas. And we were like, let's do all of it. And then in particular, Yasmin, who is there, for the very intense coordination that we have put the gallery through in bringing together 12 artists who live throughout the circumpolar world, who have been often out of email contact on the land, like not answering emails because they're out fishing for weeks on end, and just the incredible coordination of working with people who are all throughout the global circumpolar world. It's been a really special exhibition, and we're very excited that it's going on a tour. We've got 2 locations settled and a couple more in the works, so we're excited about that. And now that the exhibition is closing, we can finally start working on the book for the exhibition. So lots of new things in the works that are very exciting. So without further ado, I'm going to hand it over to Taqralik. She will perform for as long as she wants, and then we're going to have a little conversation and then do a little Q&A if you have questions for her, which I'm sure you will. So Nakumi, welcome.
I'll hold it. Yep. Hi. Thanks for staying after the film. So I normally perform from memory, but my brain is really tired, so I'm going to be reading from my phone. I know it's kind of... But my shirt is really nice, right? Yeah. I got the material in Ganawage, and actually the other stuff in Norway. So I'll read some poems in no particular order. These first 2 that I'll be reading, I wrote for the Art Gallery of Ontario. I was co-curator of an exhibit there this past summer, and I also had an installation piece in the exhibit, which included some recordings, and this was something that I had written for them. The Cuban. He said, here in North America, everyone wants to have everything, and they become unhappy if they do not get this everything. In Cuba, we are more used to accepting that if you want one thing, there is something else you must give up. The Canadian, my father, never understood money. It was like weather. It came. It went, he accepted. So this next piece, I read something recently about Greenlanders complaining that films and stories about them are always about they have beautiful nature and they go hunting. You know, I mean, there's that up north too, but we love where we come from. I was watching that film, and I live in Sápmi, in Samiland, and I was just, it's beautiful there. At first when I moved there, I was like, oh, it kind of is like up north, but not really. It's a bit weird, and I like up north Canada better, or Inuit Nunangat. But then it kind of just sneaks up on you, and you're just in love with it all of a sudden. So watching that was just so gorgeous. This is called Kutuatuhak. The town is the center. On the news, it is a remote community, isolated, fly-in, no roads. They don't know what they're talking about. Everything is here. Your life turns on the steps between home and school and your after-school job. There are 2 television channels, sometimes, but both are CBC, Radio-Canada, so they might as well be one. All My Children and Valerie Pringle on the lunchtime show, and news and weather from Corner Brook in the evening. It might be $3 for an orange. It might be whiteout in winter and everyone stays home. In summer, there will be mosquitoes. Montreal is as far as Vancouver, is as far as California, is as far as Australia. The town is the center. Your father says back then, when the ice broke in spring, everyone would be waiting by the shore just to see it, just to hear it. Such a fantastic thing. And the Americans at the army base with their American things. And in summer, everyone peeling their winter clothes off for a wash. Naskapi in one lake, Inuit in the other, with the wind blowing here and there and everybody holding their noses. Back then when tutuk was the main food, the main everything, really. He said they ate caribou every single day for weeks, and fish never tasted so good as when they finally caught some. Fresh salmon from the river, fresh salmon from the river, fresh trout from the lake. The caribou still come through town in the fall, right up the street. Hundreds, thousands. Enormous antlers on high, flared nostrils, knobby legs flying. The sound that moves the walls and the furniture. The dust and the dogs, now a single pack, crying out worse than pain and trying for the hamstrings. Such a fantastic sight. The town is the center. And then your neighbor, maybe your cousin, comes into the store mid-afternoon. The tide is high, there's room in the boat, so run home, pack, knife, matches, fishing rod, plastic bag, sleeping bag, rubber boots, pixie lure, any kind of food. If you're lucky, they haven't left. Swing your bag into the pickup, jump into the boat, and the boat breaks from shore. First pushed out by paddle, then thrust away by the outboard. The hull slapping through the waves. The town floats away from the boat. The houses, the school, the church, the arena, all suddenly smaller in size and in importance. The town moves out of sight. Montreal is as far as Vancouver, is as far as California, is as far as Australia. The wind has your hair and the hood of your parka and is singing in the taut line of the fishing rod you bought with money from your job. Fresh salmon from the river, fresh salmon from the river, fresh trout from the lake. Oh, there's a job offer in my email. I would like to do, so I wrote this piece. Did I already perform at this thing here? No, yes, no? It's all a blur. But anyway, I'm sure the audience that comes here is quite aware of who Colton Bushey was. Just to remind you, he was a young man who was murdered while he was asleep on a farm in Saskatchewan. So anyway, when the verdict came out that the person who had killed him wouldn't suffer any consequences, at least not in this life or in this justice system, I think, as we all probably know, everybody just had a collective gasp of again and still and even this. And then, of course, soon after that, there was the verdict about Tina Fontaine's killer as well. And it was just a really anguished time, I think, for especially Indigenous people, but for Canada in general. And what I really noticed was that, you know, like people think Indigenous people in Canada are just this monolithic, the natives, you know, which Heather's always trying to fight against because she wants Inuit to have Inuit-specific things. But then, of course, we're not just one Inuk either. So there's all sorts of opinions and everything. I'll stop talking about it. I'll just read this. Even the ones who were never sure about anything, even the ones who were super quiet, even the consultants, even the academics, even the ones with six-figure salaries, even the poorest ones, even the single mothers, especially the single mothers. Even the ones who normally don't like to get involved. Even the ones who thought they had turned their backs. Even the guys who say insulting things and the women in their lives are never sure if they should turn their backs. Even the ones who were stolen from their mothers. Especially the ones who were stolen from their mothers. Even the lawyers, even the doctors, even the government workers. Even the ones who agreed that it's just a costume. Even the ones who say it's just a sports team. Even the ones who insist everyone should just calm down. Even the ones who prefer to look on the bright side. Even the ones who always see the downside. Even the ones who know they will lose friends, lose family. Even the ones who have lost family, especially the ones who have lost family. Even the dancers, even the poets, even the politicians. Even the ones who live far up north. Even the ones who say, nobody owes you anything. Even the ones who are traveling when they found out. Even the ones who are on stage. Even the ones on their honeymoon. Even the ones with the flu. Even the ones with mostly white friends. Even the ones with no children. Even the ones who are very young. Even his sisters in Standing Rock. Even a DJ from Greenland. Even Martin Luther King Jr.'s daughter. Even the ones who send money to TV preachers. Even the ones who are just clinging to their own lives. Especially the ones who are just clinging to their own lives. Even the ones who couldn't bring themselves to say anything about Barbara, or Cindy, or Loretta, or Tina, or Savannah, or Anna Mae, or Annie, or Lucy, or Mary Papazzi. Even the radio personalities. Even the reporters. Even the ones who think that nobody listens. Even the ones who are just trying to be regular Canadians. Even the museum curators, even the hunters, even the single mothers, again, especially the single mothers, even the singers, even the seamstresses, even the recently retired and tired of it all ones. Even the ones who only recently found their connection. Even the ones whose only connection to any of this is their partner, or their child, or their neighbor, or co-worker, or simple recognition of common humanity. Even the ones who can only shake their heads. Even the ones who can only wring their hands. Even the ones who just can't. All of them. All of them. Everyone drew back their heads, wide-eyed, in pain and in fear and in dismay and in anger. But not in disbelief. Because what is known does not require believing or not believing. I'll just read one more, if that's okay. So, I was joking, but not really joking, last week that this is my year to do things that are Heather's idea. Because I was in Heather's meeting last week, and yesterday I was performing at another of Heather's exhibits in Ottawa. So Heather, this is actually for you. but it's really for Taqralik Patridge. So Heather's other exhibit, one of them, is about Taqralik Patridge, who is an illustrator, artist, writer, strange and interesting and wonderful person who I happened to have the honor to know. So because I was performing in conjunction with the exhibit that is about him and his work, then I wrote something in honor of him. And I performed it my first time last night and now second time tonight. You guys are so lucky. Let me find it. He said he was working on several projects, or perhaps a very big project, one that would span years, centuries, continents, galaxies. He said what you had done was that you had inspired him, that he had never seen you on stage because he had misplaced the paper flyer with your name on it. But this time he had seen you. He had seen and he had been inspired. He said, I am almost never surprised by the intensity as well as the wholeheartedness of how the Inuit of any age can bring out the emotion and the messages behind their stories as told by their artistic works. He had no problem with English, beyond perhaps the usual problem with English, which is to say that it assumes it is always right. That is beside the point. The point here was the tip of his pen, the sure black lines, the turns of phrase, the wit and the bite, the strange and the anguished. Your leaders have never marched forth in finery. They have always been this one of many, forging a path with feet sometimes caught in the undergrowth. Thank you, Nakormik.
I can just take this one. This? That's on? Thank you, Taqralik. That was amazing, as always. Super emotional. I'm not going to cry up here tonight. No, I'm not. All right, so where do you want to start? I was sitting and listening to you and thinking, like, do I do the, so how'd you get started question? But I don't know if maybe there's even a start point for you, because I feel like you've probably been making art as long as you can remember. How'd you get started?
I like making stuff. When we had the meeting, like Ryan Rice was saying, oh, you got to name what you do.
Yeah.
Make stuff. So I like to look at stuff and see how it's done and be like, oh, okay, I'm going to try that. Didn't work out for engineering, but.
Exactly. Did you feel like you started out as a poet first, or as a seamstress first, or where did it all kind of begin professionally?
So I've always liked writing ever since I was little, but I also liked drawing. And actually, I wanted to go to art school when I was in early high school, but that wasn't really an option. We didn't have art class. We had culture class. Mm-hmm. So that was a really good creative outlet, and that's why I kept sewing after that.
That's what we had too, you make mittens and that kind of thing, right? Yeah.
And eat snacks, lots of snacks. So
cultural snacks.
But then for poetry, everybody's all sort of milked me for my writing skills at work, and then at one point I was like, oh, I want to try this, and I didn't know what spoken word was.
Did you
I thought you had to write for the paper. I don't really write for the page. So,
right. Yeah. Did you attend an event, or how did you discover it? Yeah,
I found this. It's embarrassing because he gets embarrassed when he's been Facebook friends now for I don't know how many years. But yeah, it's a guy in Toronto that I had heard on a CD, and I was like, oh my God, I gotta go see it. Then I like did all sorts of crazy things and took time off work to go see this one show, really obscure show that he was in. And I was like, hi, oh my God, I'm so happy to meet you. And he was like, now we've been at a couple events together, but yeah, so it's not as bad. I don't send him messages in the middle of the night anymore.
I've just been thinking about you. And when did you first try spoken word, like in front of an audience?
2004. There used to be this magazine called Spirit Magazine.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah, and the couple that was running that, they invited me down for this festival called Word on the Street in Toronto.
Yeah.
So I think that was the first time.
Was it scary?
A little bit. Like, because I'm used to being on stage. I've been throat singing for many years. I have no problem being on obviously. But then to do your own stuff, that's like throat singing, it's like, I'm not like a creative throat singer. I just do traditional songs.
Mm.
So that's no big deal.
And you're also not alone then, right?
I'm not alone, and, you know, there's a lot of laugh. We're supposed to laugh, right? But then when it's your own thing that you're just created, it's like, oh, maybe not. But I kind of just knew it would maybe work, so.
We first met at the New Sun Conference.
You had blue hair.
I had blue hair then, and I was a huge dork, and I probably like laid awake and thought about writing you in the middle of the night. I just remember it being such
I
an
thought you were
incredible
so
event.
cool.
Oh, really? I thought
Yeah,
you
you were
thought
like,
it was
I was like, oh my
loser.
God, like I show up and all the students are cool, and I'm like,
Oh, no.
armpits, yeah.
I had a huge platonic crush on you.
Oh,
I still do.
oh.
Oh. And so tell us about your practice and how it has changed since you've started living in Sapmi. Like, how is, because I think that the works that are in here are very much, you can see the inspiration that comes from both your Inuit influences, but also now being married to a Sami fella, and you know,
He's really
having,
cute.
having reindeer in your yard, and like just, you know, this is just what I'm guessing based on your Facebook photos. So, what's it like now? How's that changing your artistic practice?
So since we moved there, I haven't really been able to get, well, first of all, I wasn't allowed to work for several months. And then once I was, it's hard for me to get work because there are two different languages that I have to be learning, which is Sami, which is the main language there,
Yeah.
and Norwegian.
Right.
Um,
English is not very common,
everybody speaks English, but to work you need those
but
languages.
you need those two
yeah.
languages. Oh, okay.
At least Norwegian, and I've only been learning Sami. So I sort of had, like, it's been many years I've been saying, oh, I want to do more creative work, and that was my chance. I have to.
Yeah.
So that's been great. And I've been doing beadwork, and I've had a whole bunch of like physical art projects in my mind for a long time.
Yeah.
But I was always like, oh, I'm not an artist. I'm not. And then you're like, you want to do something? Oh, yeah, okay. So thanks, Heather.
You're like, I had that thing inside.
Yeah, it's like,
Like for me, I thought maybe it came out of making your what you wore for your wedding, because
Yeah.
there was a lot of that work, and you were I could see that you were really into the process of doing that stuff.
yeah. Yeah, I mean, like the pieces on the wall there, they're based on this piece that I put on my amautic, and that you might have seen if you've seen Cape Dorset style amautic. It kind of goes over the womb. It's kind of a feminine shape.
I've seen them right here as well.
Yeah, people put them in different places, but I put it there because then we put a fringe here.
Right,
Yeah.
right.
And I like shiny things. So.
Will you tell us a little bit about this series that's in the space there?
Yeah. So it will be a series of 9, and it's materials or subject matter that are of significance to Inuit women.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, I don't mean just cis women. I mean what is identified for women. So, like for example, the gold one is made out of emergency blanket and dollars, and it's supposed to be like over the top, kind of like blah, like puking money or something. And like the idea is that there's so many homeless Inuit women as well as men, but I'm thinking about women, and like money is supposed to fix everything, and it looks all shiny and wonderful, but what does it really do? And then there's the green one. It's the name of that one is Canada $1.50. I was like, oh, I should have done that last year. It's kind of silly, but I just really love the gold, and I love the idea of like piercing those coins that are supposed to be so, like money is like sacred in North America and in the world in capitalist society, right?
Yeah.
So I like the idea of just sort of turning things around.
The fishing ones really spoke to me. I don't know if people understand how fishing is actually something that Inuit women really love to do. Like it's not really gendered, but it is something that women really enjoy a lot. So like the lures, so you saying that these are about things that are like women's accoutrement, I think that really resonated with me.
Yeah, like fishing up north, as you know, it's not only a women's activity, but women go crazy for it.
Yeah.
Right? And like, I like the idea of innate values or understanding of things being, not what they are in Western society. Like on TV and stuff, it's always the guys' fishing stories, and it's the catch and release, and it's the biggest fish, and it's a big expedition. But for Inuit, it's something else, and I think that's a really important, simple thing that people do. Like when we were doing the exhibit at the AGO, Kinojoak, she was saying in an interview that she didn't value the fact that she was fishing or less than her art, or that she was looking after her family. Like all these things about herself she valued equally.
Right.
And I thought that was really cool.
That there are all just ways to look after your family.
Yeah.
Yeah. The other one, the other piece in that series that it also talks about that kind of relationship to the land and also like about Inuit knowledge, but you can enjoy it and appreciate it without having that, but there is another layer that's kind of a nod to Inuit, and that's the piece with the grass that separates the seal from the reindeer. Do you want to talk about that?
So I wanted to use caribou skin, but I didn't have any from home.
Yeah.
So I used reindeer skin, and that's the one that they use for their pants. Actually, I think these are cow, but these are Sami boots, and they're the same kind of color as that leather on the piece. So I heard before in Inuit culture, you don't put animals from the land and animals from the sea together. Like maybe when you're eating it or when you're sewing stuff, although of course people do that nowadays. So what I did to divide it was put some river grass that I had picked in my home community this summer, and that's a grass that grows. So when the tide is down, it's a grass that grows like any grass, and then when the tide is up, it's covered in water. So it's like kind of a border plant.
Do you call that ivik? Like that's what we would use for basketry in the nuts.
I don't know if it's ivik. It's like really small.
Oh no! Ours is like.
Yeah, ivik is the one you pick for basket.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So that's different. That's. I thought maybe that was just like a strip of it.
I don't know. Maybe it is a small version. I know, but I noticed that it's just like that. It's covered in water and then not.
So it's like in that liminal space.
Yeah, and I think that liminal space. I mean, it's like such a catchword, but I think that's really important for Inuit. Like I think that the concept of being one thing and then that, like the whole, like, we grew up learning about creatures. Like if you hear Inuit stories, traditional stories, like if there's a story about an animal, the animal happens to also be a man. Like the bear is a man, the man is a bear, and it's both things at once.
Yeah.
So I like that concept, and it's really uncomfortable in like Western, or I don't know what the term is, but in like non-Inuit thinking, it's a really uncomfortable place to be sort of like, flickering between both. But I think for Inuit, it's just the way it is.
Yeah. I think there's also something about the sort of changing shoreline, and you were just reminding me of I can't get into I don't know why I'm going to tell this story because I can't tell you any of the details, but there was this issue we had with a map. And this is a stupid story to tell because I can't tell you what I'm talking about without telling something else. Just that for an exhibition, this design firm had made a map of Labrador, but it was like this really beautiful cutout wooden map. But then the first thing that one of our elders said when she saw it was, "How do I talk about the sea ice?" Like that, you know what I mean? Like there is another. It's not just the land to us. There is a whole other piece, and it breathes in, it breathes out every year. And like in your poem, where you're talking about just waiting for the ice to break up and listening to it, like it changes, you know, like there is a changing space. Does anyone have any questions for Taqralik? I'm going to give Robin my microphone.
So if I just ask you to speak into the microphone when you ask your question. If anyone has.
I think the curator should have to all ask.
Who's going to go first?
Hi. I'm just wondering if you find a relation between your spoken word or your literature work and your sewing pieces.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, everything I do, I always sort of have the same stuff in mind. I'm always thinking about Inuit people, always thinking about, you know what I think about every single day, just every single day is racism. I just think about it every single day, many times, like maybe all day. And I just, I wish I didn't have to, or feel that I have to, or feel that, yeah, but I do. And, you know, I mean, like talking about Koltabushi, like his death was because of hatred, racism. Inuit women on the streets, that's because of racism, as a result of colonialism, so. Yeah. To answer it.
During, back to the pieces that you have in the exhibition, during the tour with the piece that has the phrase, the question in Inuktitut, you translated it initially as, "Am I audible?" which I thought was interesting as opposed to, "Can I be heard?" or "Can you hear me?" I'm wondering about that nuance.
So I didn't really want to translate it at all. So it's like, okay, just put this. I mean, that's literally what it means. It's like, can you hear me? Which is like my voice. Can you like, like, am I heard? I'm making a noise. Is it coming into your ear? I can't even remember exactly why I wanted to have that there, but it was just like, I remember at the moment when I started making, I was like, I gotta put this on there. Yeah, so that's not a good answer, sorry.
That's a great answer.
You don't have to ask questions if you don't. I'm hungry too.
Just to continue on with your thoughts on racism, now living in Norway, do you find that's enhanced that? Or has it changed your perspective on racism?
I think I already knew that because I've been going to Norway for several years. And I don't think that the discourse on racism, at least where the circles that I move, and I haven't been out too much in the working world, but it doesn't seem like the discourse there is as much as it is here. Yeah, maybe you.
Yeah, I just, and I don't want to speak for Sami people, but you just reminded me of a conversation that I had with Marja and some of the other filmmakers that I've met when I was in Norway, and they were saying that one of their issues is that Norway was recently recognized as like the most equal society in the world, so that they kind of have this narrative there that everyone has the same quality of life, and everyone has access to the same things, and the literacy rates are quite high. And so there's kind of like this erasure that happens because because it's almost like you have no grounds to complain about. Does that make sense? I don't know if you have seen something like that in your own experience there.
Yeah, there is that, but like, for example, like in Norway, I mean, I don't want to talk too much about Sami people because I'm not Sami, but like just from what I observed in Norway, they don't have special hunting rights. So because it's an egalitarian society, there is hunting, but it's by lottery for moose, for example. And so Sami people can't necessarily go to their traditional hunting grounds to just go get a moose. You'll get in trouble if you don't have one of the tickets, if you didn't win the tag lottery. And I know that, Sami people have experienced a lot of similar things to what indigenous people here have experienced. I was talking to a writer that I know about just the treatment of Sami women. And there have been things happen specifically to women there that are just so like, oh yeah, I know what that is. But they don't call it racism. A lot of people just consider them like an ethnic minority, as opposed to really indigenous people. So it's similar and different. But the other thing is too, I noticed that I'm considered like very ethnic because it's so white there, and I have really light skin, and but I get stares and or just little comments like, oh yeah, like somebody told my dad, oh yeah, your mom's really dark, like okay. Or like a friend of mine from Greenland, I know that she's been experienced, like she's very Inuk looking, she's been experiencing racism. And because there isn't that level of discourse in general, then nobody's really saying that's what it is. But she knows, and I know, and so we try to fight against that when things come up.
Hi, I just have a general question. Do you see a relationship between throat singing and the spoken word performance? How have those two practices influenced each other? And also, do you write more than poetry? Do you also write novels or books? Or
I do write short stories, and working on a script right now, although I shouldn't say that. Yeah.
like a film script, or?
Maybe. And then what was the first part of the question? I answered that.
The relationship between throat
Oh, yeah.
singing and, or if
Yeah.
there is a connection.
Some of my spoken word, I use a little bit of the throat singing, breathing. Used to more than now, but when I started doing spoken word, I really, really tried to separate it and not have them together, because people don't really respect throat singing as an art, or at that time, especially over 10 years ago, almost 15 years ago. We even had this experience this summer, we had a nice gig, but we were not even on stage. We were supposed to walk through the crowd and just do a party trick, and I know, and some people have been serious enough about throat singing that they've taken it to all different kinds of levels. I have not. I do throat singing, and it's something that I enjoy doing with my throat singing partner, but it's not my main art. Does that answer it?
You said you think about racism every day, and I just wonder, do you find when you're making art, does that provide some relief from that stress, or does it conjure more feelings of oppression and anxiety?
Well, I feel good when I make stuff, so I guess it's some relief. I mean, it's not even that it's just a big stress all the time. It's just that I just think about it. It's like, yeah, it's like you think about food every day. Not everybody does. But it's not food that feeds me, but it's something that's there. Yeah.
I think that really resonated with me when you say that, because I think that it's important to say, because I don't know that everyone has to think about racism or being racialized every day, or, you know, and it's something that I think as Indigenous people in Canada, but probably everywhere, that it's always on your mind, you know, like, because my Facebook feed is like, you know, oh, it's another notification about someone who's gone missing, and have you seen this person, and or a police story about, you know what I mean, about something coming up with in a community, or like in your poetry you were saying, it's another story about this isolated community and a tragedy that's happened. Like when we make it on the news, it's usually bad news, right? Or even just like talking to people and they're like, this is what happened at work today, and you know that they're being told that what they're experiencing is not racism, but like you said, you know that it is, right? You know that there's that undercurrent. And so it's just that sort of, you can never shake it off, like it doesn't really go away. So I know what you're saying, like, yeah, that it's just always there, you know? So I don't know, I think that art making, I think that the works in this show are politicized, but in a kind of a loving politicized way, like that it's really about, you know, when we were, Amy and Chris and I were saying that when we wrote the draft description for the exhibition, like we need to get something to Michelle to get out to press because the show was coming up, but we hadn't received all the works in, and so we had this idea about what the show was going to be, and it was very like anti-extraction and exploitation, and these artists are mad, and like, you know, which they are. But then when we saw the works, we were like, oh, there's a lot of love in this show. It's actually, you know, it's about sweaters and hugging it close and your grandparents and, you know, performing like the performance that Alison did, Siku Siku. It's about losing her cousin to meth addiction, but it's about the fact that she really loved her cousin, you know. So all the pieces are kind of like, they are about all of these things and all these racist threads and the sort of exploitation that's happening throughout the circumpolar world and globally. But it is done in a way that's like, but I do this work and I resist and I care because I have so much love for other Indigenous peoples, Inuit people, and so on.
Heather's right.
I was wondering if there's a relationship between the Sami Duoji craft making tradition and the works that you made for this show. If there was, Heather, you mentioned that there were some Sami influences, but I'm wondering if your time there has...
So the only one I want Sami people to see is the fish. The rest they're not allowed to see because they are so good at making things. No, but in the community where I live, there's the Sami School, which is a university college. And one of the things you can study all the way, I think at least until master's, is Sami Duchi, which is making art and making things, right? And there's different categories of Duchi. There's soft Duchi and hard Duchi. One is like sewing and all those things, and the other is like carving and metalworks. And the work that they do and the standard to which people hold themselves is so high that whenever I'm making something, I don't really want people to come around. So that leather piece, it's just so shoddily made compared to something that somebody in Sápmi would make.
Would you call that daida or the
I guess, yeah, like artwork, yeah. But my husband cut the little antler piece, so like that's his contribution. Yeah.
Okay, so if that's it for questions, then I just want to say Thank you to you again for, I know you've been traveling a lot, doing all the shows that I've made you do. And so I'm really grateful for you taking this other stop. I know this is, you've got lots more travel on your agenda coming up. So I'm really, really grateful that we could be in the gallery together with all of you. So thank you all for coming out. Thanks to the gallery again and my co-curators and especially Taqralik.